What's up, everybody? Welcome to Wits End Podcast. I'm your host, Devin Witt, alongside my co-host, Joe the Show. And you know what? It's been a little bit, but I feel like there's been a lot happening over the last couple weeks here in America that we had to pod. There's just no way around it. I mean, where do you even begin? I'll just kind of read off a little bit of where I'm planning on going today, so that
Why
way
don't you just go there?
people have an idea.
No, they don't get preludes.
I guess. Yeah, go ahead and check out the chapter notes for the pod, and that'll give you a pretty good idea. But without further ado, here we go. TD Bank has been fined $3 billion for a money laundering scheme to drug cartels, specifically Colombia. And up to 5 employees so far may be prosecuted. What are your thoughts?
Sounds like they were running money-making business. You got to understand, you got to explain who TD Banks is. Most people
all right, TD
especially
Bank,
younger generation, they're not, you probably didn't even know who TD Banks was until you read that.
No, I definitely did because there was an arena named after him for, I believe, the Boston Celtics back when I used to pay attention to the NBA.
Sure.
But number one, the way I understand it, they're a top 10 banking financial institution in America. And this is by far the biggest civil lawsuit levied or fine levied against a bank in American history.
Bank in U.S. history.
There it is.
Plead guilty to bank secrecy.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Best audio. Need to play it through the TV. No, like,
No,
so,
we
I
just
mean,
got
I seen
copyrighted.
the $3 billion thing and they're laundering money. You know, because I always switch directions with it. My first thing is like, okay, great. So you're going to find the politicians now? The ones that probably were using that bank? Because you're going to tell me the politicians that sitting behind the White House ain't involved in some of the same stuff?
Money laundering
Yes,
operations?
exactly.
Well, maybe it's not people who are formally supposed to be in the White House, but it could be their family doing.
Okay, so you're telling me that Biden don't have some shady stuff going on?
Well, his children may, but that's not him.
I'm just saying, like,
he's too old to know what's going on.
So from the reports I read, which that one I didn't really get too deep, it's like, okay, they're caught laundering money and all this other stuff, $3 billion, and you know, my first thought was obviously politicians, but the further that article went on, it said that there was like people that were bribed and paid out, like employees and stuff like that. So
at least one operation, there was over $390 million laundered.
Well, I mean, it's hard for me because that article is not that in depth. The one I read that says, like, I mean, what I mean by in depth is like, did they just like all this money is filtering through and they're just kind of like, oh, we didn't see that, which that's kind of what they portrayed it as, but they turned a blind eye to it basically. So like, how does that, like, I guess the deeper thing for me is say, oh, $3 billion. I mean, that's obviously, but let's break it down even the smaller. So let's say $1 million. Like, do the banks, what's their protocol to say that flags this besides, oh, it came from a foreign account?
Well, that's kind of the point, is that they have several different ways to detect money laundering type operations, and TD Bank failed in the sense of even though their profits were growing, etc., they did not invest more in their compliance aspects / auditing of accounts to make sure that, number one, they know their customer, and then number two, that the customers that are doing business at their bank are not using drug money for their operations. And so at several locations, and this is just what they're willing to go after, how I kind of view it, and one of the questions I really had is, right now they're prosecuting up to 5 different people, allegedly. You know, I feel like we should just throw that word out there just in case. How many more that aren't going to get caught, because on both sides, from the government as well as the bank, neither one wants people to know
Well, here you go.
what's going on.
Who's investigating it?
The government.
Who?
I'm assuming the SEC, Securities
Well,
Exchange,
probably, but let's see. There's
the Federal
another
Reserve. I'm sure
there's
they're
another
they're
shady
involved.
F word in there.
The FBI.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
And ironically, you want to. I'm not convinced that there's I know this is not about politics, but is this as corrupt as they are, and every one of them has their freaking hands in foreign affairs? How come there's no politician ever getting wrote up on that? And I want people to note what I just said because that's going to come up in another topic later on. Like, how come they're not? How come they're not ever getting investigated? Like, they're not even saying the bank. But the financial institutions they're using, they're not flagging the stuff coming in from their foreign accounts. Like, how does even anybody in the United States begin with even have a foreign accounts? It's just like a business, like I can understand if you're doing like, say you have an American ran business and you're selling 100 pair of shoes to China. I don't know. I'm like, I get you're gonna have money coming in outside of U.S. currency coming from a foreign account. Like, I get some of those things, but like, these numbers are so big, and we see this so many times from a political or governmental standpoint, but like nobody's talking about that. I'm not trying to sit here and say like we should turn a blind eye to these banks and they should get away with it because they didn't. But like we focus on this. It's like a spotlight of something to divert from something else.
And I don't entirely disagree with you, but a lot of that could be blamed from the government oversight perspective. And, I guess I would ask is what are the incentives? If you, and I can say this personally as I've worked at a bank, the number one goal is to acquire more money. Make no mistake about it, whether it's through fees or interest on loans,
Right.
collected accounts, whatever. I mean,
Right.
they'll take money any way they can get it.
Well,
And so as a result, to me, what the real question comes down to is, number one, government oversight. Why didn't we catch this sooner if it's been going on for basically a decade? And then number two, from the bank side, why is it that you set up your incentives for your employees in such a way that they felt like it was okay to go along with money laundering operations for drug cartels?
To put it like in a dummy sense, which I know these transactions ain't happening like that, but it'll just make it simple, stupid for people. If somebody walks in there and say, "Here, I need to deposit," whether it be a check, cash is a little different, whatever. I'm going to drop $1 million in here. Like, that eye has to be turned from a lot of people. Starting with the teller, they're not like, you don't think that these presidents of a bank ain't going to know when somebody comes in there and does that. Go and it'll play the opposite side of it. Go to your bank right now if you have that money and withdraw. Say, I want to withdraw $1 million. I'll bet money you're going to have more than a teller behind the counter trying to stop you from doing that. You're going to have a lot of higher up people trying to, just because of the fear, like we don't want you taking that money because they make money off your money. And so what I'm saying is this it wasn't just one or two people that turned a blind eye to this thing.
Yeah, and
we're talking C-level positions.
Yeah.
Had to have just said, "Oh, that didn't happen." And so, and I don't know on this. They pleaded guilty to this stuff, but what I didn't see in there specifically in these higher up positions is the people that they're actually going to target in these positions that turned a blind eye that should be held accountable for that, which is, C-level, the corporate level positions in this that knew this stuff was going on. So who's actually going to be held accountable, or what? Do we just fine them? And who gets? But let's be fair.
Yeah,
Who gets? We're going to fine you $1 million or $2 billion or $1 billion of that, and we're going to seize the assets of $3 billion. What is the government going to do? Probably give it to Israel, I guess, but
bail them back out
like,
when they say I'm bankrupt.
It's like, oh, it's our money now. We can just go blow it on foreign affairs. Whatever. I don't know what they do with that money. I'm just speculating, but I'm saying, like, who's going to be held accountable? Just say, oh, we pled guilty. Well, that's fine, but who?
That's the thing, though, is that I feel like there's multiple cases throughout America's history where the government has a great idea of like, hey, here's how we can win at something, and then it ends up backfiring in the face. And to me, there's no clearer example than have you ever heard of like the Cobra effect?
I don't know. You get bit by it, you die, I guess.
No, not quite. This has to do with the government.
Yeah, right. You cross them, you die. Yeah, either way, same thing.
The basic gist of this is that the United States government wanted to take care of cobra populations in high risk areas.
What do you mean by what do you mean by that?
Like literal cobras, snakes.
Okay, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So anywho, the government is like, hey, we're gonna pay people to exterminate these things, so that way, they aren't hurting citizens. So people start actually breeding cobras to make more of them, so that way they can collect more money from the government. The government catches on. They decide to stop the program. So now there's no incentive for the cobra trappers to continue doing what they're doing. So they just release it back into the wild.
Where in the hell is a cobra outbreak in America? Like, I've never heard of this. Now,
well,
the anacondas and stuff under the
I mean-
that type of stuff. Like, I get that. Like that, I see that. I've seen, whatever. So, I mean, I get that, and I understand how that happened, or whatever. But a cobra outbreak, and like, okay, breeding them, I get that, because people's gonna take advantage. So
quite a while ago. Like, don't get me. I'm not saying that this was recent, but on the other hand, the point of what it's trying to prove there is that sometimes the government comes in, they create a incentive to do something. The moment you take away that incentive, sometimes it makes the problem worse. And in this case, cobra populations increased than what they were before the government had ever started this program to try and exterminate them.
Right. Okay.
So, what does that tell you is that typically the moment the government intervenes, nothing good comes out of it. And so how I kind of view a situation like this is, although, yes, the government should have intervened years ago, on the other hand, I can't see how this is actually going to benefit Americans, because I feel like it's just going to come down to even stricter laws as far as, because, like, for instance, what you brought up, hey, I want $1 million out of my account. You got to fill out a ton of paperwork, and you also have to wait several business days for that money to actually get to the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what does that tell you is, like, here I am depositing my check or my hard-earned cash into the bank, but I can't withdraw that at any time that I please. And if I do over $10,000, I have to say why I'm doing it.
I mean, I could go
like,
down to my
it's over
bank
the
account
top.
tomorrow and say, hey, I want to withdraw $1 million, and I'll assure you they're not going to have it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. It's like,
Because
hey,
I don't either.
well, and
I'm just saying.
yeah, okay, brokey. Just
I ain't got no $1 million to withdraw.
it's just really, I guess what I'm getting at here is that whenever we're talking about liability, politicians will do anything and everything to bury a story rather than bring it to light and let people actually understand just how corrupt capitalism can be in certain instances. And so, where do we go from here? I don't know. Like, I can't say I want the government to come out with new banking regulations, but I also am not a fool to think that if TD Bank got caught, that tells me that every other banking institution across the country is probably dealing with the same thing, just maybe not at a higher scale than how blatant they were being with it. But
Sure.
You better believe if people are using the top 10 financial institutions in America to money launder, they're doing it at your local community bank.
I'm sure.
So,
I'm sure to some degree. If I was doing it, I would do it on a different scale and use multiple places. But that's just me.
okay, so let's transition into the next story then, because we're talking about government incompetence. So, I guess the only way I know how to say this is, are cars going to become the new judge, jury, and executioner of people driving while impaired?
No,
Are you sure?
positive.
And why is that? Like, how can you say that?
Because I think it opens up a door for lawsuits.
Okay, but what if they've already wrote the bill and it was signed into law?
Well, if that happened, that'd be a different story. But that if is not a possibility right now.
No, but it is. So let me just go ahead and read you this quote. So in section 24220 of Biden's infrastructure bill, it claims that it requires all new cars to be equipped with technology that identifies whether the driver is impaired and prevents or limits vehicle operation if a driver impairment is detected.
But that's not a kill switch.
Oh, really?
So here's what I looked up. Fact check. No, there's no
USA
vehicle
Today?
kill switch in Biden infrastructure bill. Now,
USA
my thing of
Today?
it is, no, it's different.
Okay.
No, there is one from USA Today, but the one I looked
saying
at
that
is different.
exact words.
So the thing of it is, in what people, I do believe, because I looked at the bill, I do believe that with explanation that they're not trying to implement kill switches per se. And what I mean by kill switches is the definition that most people is going to think of what you mean is you're driving down the road and the cop can't pull you over. So they can do XYZ and shut your vehicle down. Now, what this bill is describing, because I've read it, I read the pages, is, in my interpretation of it, is saying that they want stuff in there. And I'm going to make a comparison because it doesn't say this directly, is that vehicle is going to have technology that can read your body temperature, your skin, your tone, a bunch of different things, and make a determination that you're impaired. At that point, that vehicle would lose some capabilities. The problem with it is, and to me, it's not about that it loses some capabilities, because the thing of it is everybody's sitting here saying the kill switch is this and the kill switch is that. And this bill, and that's what you're going at. And I'm going to switch directions with it because you idiots in America, that technology already exists. I'm not going to try to drop names on OnStar, but these things already out there.
As far as vehicle tracking,
they can shut that stuff down. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to have, there's some subscriptions and some other things. These things already exist.
Yeah, it's called buy here, pay here.
And so they can have functionalities to access your car. It's been done in police chases. It's been done in pursuits where this person, they got a tag and this vehicle was stolen. And so this vehicle stole, the cops pursuing it, they're not stopping. So they call, hey, this is XY, police department. They have to go through some confirmation things. It does take a little bit of time, and they can get that shut down. Look it up. It's out there. I'm not saying that, okay, because Joe said it's on Google. No, I'm not saying, but these things are already, that technology already exists to shut your vehicle down if you have a new one. Black boxes. Now, I know that's not a shut down your vehicle, but what I'm getting at is they're already monitoring you, and some vehicles have the technology. They can pull a black box just like they can a plane. They can say, yeah, you were doing 45 miles an hour in a 35 mile an hour zone. This place, you didn't hit the brakes fast enough. You're the one that caused that fatality. They can see these things. So, but that's by definition. Now, the kill switches, here's where I want to take this a deeper dive. Why do you think they want kill switches in vehicles anyway? And I want to see that. Let's think about this. The premise for it, the kill switch is to shut that vehicle down. I do believe and the short answer is government control. That's the short answer.
Yeah.
But what I want to dive into is the premise behind this bill and when it was wrote.
So, number one, that's where we get into the infrastructure bill. I didn't know that infrastructure meant that, hey, we got to also require new car manufacturers to track every last bit of you. And then also, let me read the words again, just to make sure I get this correct. If the driver is impaired, it will limit or prevent vehicle operation.
Yes.
Limit or prevent. I feel like that's very cut and dry, that we can shut your car off legally.
But they're not
and that's
saying
the difference, because once you introduce, because right now, you're right, OnStar, all these other companies, they have the capabilities. They can shut that thing off. They know exactly what you're doing. Actually, there was a study that came out that said that car manufacturers actually know your sexual activity. They can tell when you're boning in the car. So that alone tells you, and by the way, whenever you're signing this digital contract, whenever you're buying this new car, it's in there for sure in the small print that, just so you know, we're taking all of your data and profiting off of it. And now we're going to take it one step further and work with the government to prevent or limit your vehicle operation.
But you're saying two different things.
You're impaired.
There's two different things from what you're saying to what I'm saying. What the bill says is not that somebody has a switch, that somebody can control that. What this bill is saying, that they want by 2026 to have, vehicles implemented with this technology, is just that. This is internally built into the vehicle.
They want a robot to do it.
Exactly. And that's where this problem lies. So there's two different things we're saying. I'm not disagreeing and disputing what you read and what you say, because I believe that's accurate. I know it's accurate because I've read the thing. But it's not that this is the way that it's being portrayed to social media is these cops have a switch and tag number, boom, shut that Chevrolet down, shut that Ford down. That's not what this bill is.
Are you trying to tell me right now that human intervention couldn't take place? So if I am a highway patrolman and this guy's going 100 in a school zone, and it's like, OnStar, you got to take care of this guy right
Mm-hmm.
now. That there isn't a guy at OnStar who can.
Oh, no, they
and
can.
then boom, you're shut
They
down.
can, and I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying, and again, I'm gonna try to clarify this. I'm speaking to this bill the way it was wrote and what it says, and it's simple. And break it down again. It's not about somebody having a switch. This is internal technology built into the vehicle to what you said: prevent or stop, limit, shut down that vehicle based off what that vehicle reads.
And then
not
someone
what anybody
reviews
else.
it. But someone's going to review it, because here's how. And let me go ahead and give you a couple examples. So, is this really about saving lives? What happens if you have a medical emergency, like someone having a heart attack, or your parents need help, or your spouse is having a baby? You know, what then? Like, yeah, it's going to appear that I'm driving impaired because I'm weaving in and out of lanes. I'm
Sure.
driving erratically because I've got somewhere to be for a medical emergency. Now my vehicle thinks I'm impaired, so it pulls me over. Meanwhile, whoever is next to me is dying or in need of help.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to wait for someone at that point. There's going to be a customer service line, and I hope the music is good as you wait, watching Dad clutch his chest.
Right.
You know, like it's insane.
No, I mean examples.
So-
examples. Yeah, I mean it's a valid excuse or valid argument.
And but get this, they have an answer for that. We've got a button that you can push that allow you to accelerate or decelerate quickly for 15 seconds. That's their workaround.
It's like NOS.
yeah, like, oh my God, let me override my vehicle that's trying to kill me
Right.
for 15
Well,
seconds.
I think it's like a lot of things, though. I mean, there'd be delete kits and stuff like that, you know, and it's just another thing.
Yeah, more money.
I mean, it will. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you know, you take a standard,
I haven't thought
you know,
about that.
a standard vehicle,
Delete
and they
kits.
have these, this technology's out there. They have depth flood, you know, these supposed to be better for the,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
global warming and stuff like that. And delete kits, you can delete that, bypass it, and, you know, stuff like that. Yeah, it avoids your warranty. It's a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty. Most people put that on there like a year, you know. So like, really, what are you losing? And vehicles today, to be fair, they're not made to last like they used to be. So there's another thing. You know, I look at this a little bit different. So, Debbie Dingell, I think your name is, Democrat out of Republican. Here's what she said. She pointed to the 31% increase in drunk driving crashes between 2019 and 2021 in Florida, and the 190 fatalities in 21 in Kentucky. That's this kind of this premise for this stuff is one excuse. Is all these, we've had this influx of 31%, 190 plus for fatalities, you know, from drunk driving. But what you don't see in that bill in 2019 and the beginning of 2020 was the peak of COVID. The government made you stay at home. What did you expect people to do?
And
Well, no, think about that. Now, the government has this thing, when I'm not debating COVID's legit or not, that's not my thing, so YouTube, take that out of your algorithms. I'm not debating that. It's very ironic the statistics they're using are 2019 through 21 in the peak of this stuff, whenever the government had everybody staying at home. And on top of staying at home, they funded it. You want to deep dive into a conspiracy theory? Here we go. They funded you to stay at home. Why do you think we had so much babies? Why do you think we had? Because the government's paying you to drink. Now, to validate the alcohol sales, I can't validate that because I don't work in that industry, but I do work in the marijuana industry. And in that same time frame, marijuana sales were astronomically high too. So they did all this stuff. They scared you. You stay at home and you're drunk and you've got all these, you know, people out drinking and driving. So how can you convince me that wasn't an agenda on the side now that this happened, to now put kill switches in there in the name of saving the 190 fatalities?
Yeah, well, and yeah,
And I'm going to take it a little bit deeper here. I want to try to get this point out here. We're worried about the 190 fatalities from drinking and driving. That is fair. It's 190 people, for crying out loud. And we should be concerned about that. We should be concerned about this 31% increase of people dying and taking the kill switches and taking away people's rights. What about the millions of babies you're killing every year? We're not concerned about that. The government don't seem to want to talk about those type of things. They're worried about 190 people off what was quoted. So 190 people died, so we have to affect the millions of people's lives to put a kill switch. And what I think that infringes on is my constitutional rights.
Undoubtedly, and to elaborate further on what you're saying here, you're worried about 190 deaths, but on the other hand, why don't you ever say a word about all the people that die, hundreds of thousands of people that pass away from deaths related to morbid obesity, or even deaths of despair in general.
Right.
Whether it's a fentanyl overdose, which at that point I'm sure you could accumulate quite a few more deaths related to that due to illegal immigration and drugs just openly coming into America versus deaths of fatality by car accidents, drunk drivers.
Right.
But no bills being passed to try and stop that. It's a political talking point.
Well,
And
it is.
so
I mean, the narrative.
That's what's
All I'm saying is these numbers, the times they were pulled, it seems to be that there might be a government-created narrative there. And let's face it, that wouldn't be the first time that narrative's come up. You look at, I am not going into racism and LGBTQ stuff today, but I'm going to say this to it, that narrative is being fueled by the government.
Well, same thing. I know we're a month over it now, but 9/11. One terrorist act results in this forever change in travel across the United States.
Which still is a joke.
And it still is a joke. But on the other hand, it's like that's what, whenever they implement these kinds of things, they never go back and say, oh, you know what, we've saved enough lives. Let's go ahead and repeal that and give America some freedom back. No, they only build on it. So that's to me is kind of the scariest part.
Right.
And to kind of put that in more of a perspective, we're worried about these 190 fatalities, but I'll tell you an even crazier one. Rather than stopping the drug trafficking or human trafficking that's currently taking place, we would rather focus on a Arkansas father who shoots and kills a man found with his 14-year-old daughter. He's being charged with first-degree murder. So my question is...
No, you got to set the premise because he's already formally has a restraining order and raped that kid. Supposedly what the report says.
And you're 100% right. I was going to add a little bit of context, afterwards. But I guess the real question here that's being asked is, now that you've charged a man with first-degree murder, in a case like this where he shot the man who raped his daughter, should he be held accountable, or should a jury of his peers let him off?
Both. But what I mean by that is the held accountable for what he did. Yeah, he should be held accountable. Everybody should be held accountable for his actions. But the actions don't warrant jail.
So you're saying it was justified?
Yes.
So if I rape a child and I'm told to stay away from this child and then I kidnap that child, you're saying that it's okay for the father of that child to euthanize me?
Yes.
See, in California, that wouldn't fly.
Well, apparently not. Yes, I'm
Or how about
exactly. It's
Arkansas?
exactly what I'm stating because see, the thing of it is there's a use of you get into military terms, you get into a lot of terms, but deadly force and deadly force is you're authorizing deadly force, so it's not going to cause other people harm. The thing of it is in this situation, there's a lot of things that's being overlooked, and I know you just kind of opened this can of worms up, but this guy. Again, I'm going off the reports. I don't know 100% sure because I wasn't there. I'm not that guy. I'm not in that family. But supposedly that person was raped, and I'm going to just break this. Let's go with this approach of let's break this down to get here. This person was supposedly raped this kid and had a restraining order against them. Okay, that's first. Before we even get into about killing and shooting and what happened, my first question is why was this guy not already in jail?
That's let out on bond.
Well, but there's a reason why I'm asking that question. But that's my thing is like, why is this guy not in jail? In the current society, you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent. So by current standards in the United States, this guy should be in jail awaiting, whatever the trial and stuff, whatever. In most all circumstances besides him and P. Diddy, he would be in jail. Yes, I took the shot. So
I thought about bringing him up. Real
so he's not, and so that's my question number one. Now, to answer that question, I had to look a little bit deeper into this, and I'm not trying to steal your thunder. Hopefully, you wouldn't plan on going there. But what I found out was this guy happens to be a chief of police, and also happened to be a resource officer.
The dad.
No, the guy that raped.
Really?
Yeah, you didn't catch that part?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I have that pulled up as well.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I mean, so there's you start questioning, was this he bonded out, or was it here's a story from the parents that this is what they posted. So they did try to do a GoFundMe. I'm sure you're aware of that. They tried to do a GoFundMe to support to get money to do that, and it got shut down and taken off, obviously, because standards, they don't allow that's kind of a standard in that they don't allow like FundMes for certain things, and it happens not like that particular thing because it's criminal trials basically.
Yeah.
So here's the article. First, here's how they address this. First, just wanted to thank the community and all the victims who have reached out to us. We've gotten a clear picture of the predator who continuously worked with children and preyed on young girls. This man was chief of police in Indiana and a resource officer, giving us a better idea of why the Lanook County courts have been protecting him and going after my husband. And it talks about the GoFundMe and why it was taken down. So, again, I can't definitively say this because I don't know. I'm going off the information that I'm getting from the media at this moment. And the thing of it is what I believe, and I'm not saying that it's true, but I believe it because what you'll do is what you've already found out, because that's information to you. What you'll do is when you're reading this story after story after story and getting 10 different news articles and 10 different news accounts of it, that piece of information ain't there. It's not readily available.
Yeah, and I do feel like that has to do with the chief of police angle.
Well, now, but you see, you take it that is, why do you think that this guy got arrested? Most any circumstance, they would be like, okay, I'm jumping ahead. Let's paint the picture. This guy rolls up. This girl's gone.
Yeah, she's kidnapped.
Called the cops. Hey, where's my daughter? They can't find him. This guy tracks him down. This guy's already raped his daughter by records. Already has a restraining order against not supposed to be in contact. Any reasonable dad rolls up on that, and he's in there. And what you will read is it doesn't say he just opened fire and started killing people. There was a confrontation. You don't think that a cop would have a gun on him? It's self-defense.
That's
Now,
powerful.
take that a step further. If, in fact, they do charge this guy's got every freaking thing in his back pocket to say it's temporary insanity. Now, we would know, I think, as grown men and dad in the United States, that we would also know that that's a BS excuse, and that was, it was intended. It's premeditated.
And that's the thing. They're right in making the charges. That's first-degree murder, because you stole my daughter after you've already done these atrocious things.
Mm-hmm.
I have no other choice but to respond with lethal force.
But there was a confrontation that they're not talking about. See, that's another thing, and that's what I don't like about this.
Yeah, you better believe I am the judge, jury, and executioner.
Dead guy can't say his side of the story. Dead guy can't say his side of the story.
Which is always the plan to begin with. I'm not advocating for people's death, but on the other hand,
I am.
He
shouldn't have done the crap. He shouldn't have got away with it.
That's the point. Is at the end of the day, it's like I'm also not advocating for people who commit atrocious crimes. So you get what's coming to you, and unfortunately, in today's world, we need to see how I guess I view it. It's like we need another O.J. Simpson trial. We need another, that glove didn't fit, you must acquit type of moment.
Well,
and that there's no better example than a father who takes out the most corrupt police chief in Arkansas in defense of his daughter.
Yeah, I
Like,
don't see the issue here, man.
I
Like,
don't know how you can, like, as a jury of peers.
oh, but the thing, it's not jury of peers, and people don't understand this. And you've been on jury duty, you've been there. They stack. Well, they're jury of your peers. My butt. They stack them with a bunch of questions first, and say, would you incriminate somebody with this? Would you indict somebody? Would you do this? Would you? Oh well, no. Oh nope, you can't be on the jury.
If I'm a criminal, yes, you want that ability to be able to stack the jurors. But even then, a case like this, where evidence is so strong against the defendant in this case, there's no way that, I don't care how, but it's almost like the question I brought up a couple weeks ago of, like, can you rape your wife? It's like, clearly the answer is yes. But there was a few people who got weeded out that said, well, did you take her to dinner first? The whole point of it being, though, is like, yeah, you can definitely find idiots, but you're not going to find 12 of them.
Well, I agree. And if you have one hung on a jury, this situation is so messed up because even from, you got to look at it from a real perspective. And that's, I think, a jury would look at it as say, hey, this guy was already not charged. He was arrested for rape and he had a protective order. So that means there had to have been enough evidence of something to get the protective order, restraining order. So there was already enough there. This girl was kidnapped. She's missing. They don't know where she's at. And the cops are called. They can't find her. But this guy, for whatever, he knew where to look. Now, whatever, he rolls up there. Okay, the girl's already been raped. This 14-year-old kid, man.
I know.
So what are you telling me? So let's do some reverse psychology for the people in America against our government or our law enforcement. Your kid is kidnapped and getting ready to get sold into sex trafficking. And you're supposed to say, oh, hold on, let me call 911 first.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the trafficker is also the chief of the police department you're trying to call.
Well, exactly. And what we found out from previous things, and I'm using an example of sex trafficking, you're going to go there, but I can, is you look at Epstein. There's a lot of things in government officials that I think are getting off scot-free with things because of the position they hold.
Well,
hey, people can frown on that all they want, but I believe there is people of authority that's got away with stuff in that, and it was covered and swept under the rug because of their position. And that's what I'm saying would happen here. He's a chief of police. Why do you think that guy got arrested? And the thing of it is, he's arrested and put in jail for killing somebody that raped his kid, but yet the guy that raped his kid is out of jail. How screwed up is that?
But he was able to get out on bond.
I mean,
it doesn't make sense because, I mean, I feel like if anyone was to actually take a poll in America right now, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, the majority of the poll would state that if you are convicted or accused of a sexual crime, there is no bail.
Well,
I have a feeling that a majority of Americans would support that kind of a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Now, clearly, we have buts, whats, and everything else that would go into wrongfully accused, etc. I'm not trying to just advocate for women here. But on the other hand, a vast majority of it, like if it's in any way provable immediately, like, hey, the cops caught the guy with the girl with his pants down in a parking lot. Yeah, like
my thing is, like, here's the thing:
until court, you should be held in jail. Now, prove your innocence from there.
1:12 a.m. This dude is running around with this little girl in his car. Like, really?
Yeah.
You're like, come on. However, what I would like answers to, and I'm not concerned about all the little things about how he died or didn't, whatever. How did this dude track this dude down at 1:00 in the morning?
Because that's a dude who knows his stuff. Well, if anything, the chief of police was probably dumb enough to let her have her phone, or he had her phone.
Maybe.
And
it's a possibility.
Definitely probably got tracked. There was something that daughter had on her that was trackable, and that chief of police was just thinking with the wrong head. Sorry.
I mean, it is
all right.
It's
insane.
What it is. It's a stupid situation that I think is getting blown out of proportion. The guy should not have been arrested.
Nope.
And,
exonerated.
I'm not going to sit here and say definitively. I can't say on air my real opinion because I'd get booted, but I'm not necessarily say the guy was wrong in his retaliation or his with the situation, and then they're making it like, well, they were in this confrontation. Yeah, what would you expect, dude? If your 14-year-old daughter, raped or not, you roll up, she's kidnapped, and you happen to roll up on the person that did it. You don't think there's going to be a confrontation? Like, it's stupid that the police even say this stuff. That's how ignorant they are. The thing of it is, what I'm saying is there's so little about this. It's like everything else. They make this crap out, and they make such a big deal about it. We're not seeing any body cam footage. We're not seeing anything really about the crime scene. We're not seeing this stuff. We're not seeing about this guy's profession and what he did. We're not seeing the reports come out. Public information, people. We're not seeing these reports come out of the restraining order. And so there's a lot of things already right off the bat wrong with this whole scenario. It screams they're trying to cover something.
And I mean, but yeah, but what do you expect? Like, for instance, TD Bank being able to get away with for 10 plus years with money laundering for drug cartels. Someone knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody knew, and nothing was done.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like it's.
I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen in this case. Watch, because it happens all the time. There's going to be other people, and come back, and I'll come back this episode in a couple weeks. Some other people are going to come forward and say that guy did something to him.
That'd be nice.
Because I don't think, if this story is true, I don't think it was one kid from that school.
That would definitely make sense.
I bet it happens. Watch.
And that's usually how it works. You don't get caught on the first one.
Well, I'm just saying, because the guy can't defend himself. He's dead now, and I'm not trying to compare him to other, because I've talked on the other side of that about people coming forward. But I think now that threat is neutralized, the best way I can say it, I think some people will start coming out with things that happen.
Done for.
Well,
that's a death
I can't see any way around this from what the information I have at this present moment. I can't see how this dad is not justified. I can't see how he is wrong. I can't see how this is not authorized use of some level of force. And it's very evident. What I would be concerned about on another level is, again, this guy tracked him down. He found his kidnapped daughter. I'd be concerned about your police doing your job, because obviously they can't.
Well, either that or Dad's just better at his job than
this is a prime example of
he should be the chief of police.
I'm not categorizing all law enforcement in this, by no means, by the statement I'm about to make, but this is primarily about a bunch of wannabe military guys. There's a brotherhood in the military, and I'm not going to run from that. These guys have fought together, in combat, and there's a camaraderie there it'd be very hard to break. The thing of it is, law enforcement kind of has this military type militaristic type mentality that's really not applicable. It's not, because most of these guys are not. I'm not saying that, hey, there's a shootout and these 2 or 3 cops, maybe there's 4 or 5, that there's not a common bond there, of having each other's back. And I understand the premise of having each other's back. But let's face it, these guys are not, pulling their guns every freaking day, like they do on TV and do this. So what I'm saying is, what I'm getting at, it's almost cult-like. It's indoctrinated in them that you cover your brother in that way. And as a byproduct that, you have these cops, the situation I think is one of them, covering for his wrongdoing.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't doubt it at all, but I'm not, I do try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but then you also have other instances where things do get recorded. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it ends up coming back to bite you in the butt. And to me, I have a pretty good segue here, because it makes me think of, have you heard anything about this FEMA meeting in which they were discussing who should be prioritized in natural disasters? And the debate was between LGBTQ people and everyone else.
In a natural disaster?
Yes. Who should be prioritized whenever it comes to saving and assisting?
Well, the society,
first.
I already know the answer to that. But I get, okay, my mind went in a whole different direction than what I think you're trying to tell me. So what you're saying is there's this country, whatever. There's this town that gets demolished by a flood
or a hurricane.
and there's the straight person and there's the gay person, equally amount of damage. The vote was, which one do we favor?
Yeah, well, who do you help first? Who has to wait?
Well, I can't answer that.
So let me, because I did actually write down a quote from a little bit of what they said. They said, we should focus our efforts on LGBTQIA plus people. They've struggled before the storm. And here's another great way of putting it. FEMA relief is no longer about getting the greatest good for the greatest amount of people. It's about disaster equity.
Okay, so I'm gonna take that same concept and take a little bit deeper. So now you have a black straight person and a black LGBTQ person. So does the black LGBTQ plus IQZ are now favored more because that black person has went through a lot more in history, but now they're gay on top of it. So now the black gay person has a higher position than the black person. The black person has a higher position than the gay person, and the person that's a straight white person is on the low of the totem pole. So please tell me where white privilege comes in. If you didn't catch that, I don't even know how I put that out there. But yeah, do you see what I'm saying? That analogy is so stupid, and that's how you break these things down, because my initial, before I started chasing down another way, is valid. They're saying the black people, not black people, the LGBTQ has been harassed. I'm going to use the word oppressed because that's where I'm going to go with this. They have been bullied and picked on, so they should be favored and kiss their ass. So, but now it's a fair question. By that statement and that way of thinking, if you have two black people, one straight, one's gay, the gay black person would be doubly oppressed than just a straight black person. By that theory.
Basically what you're saying is that if a black person and black gay person were both stranded in their houses, one's Barack Obama, one's Karine Jean-Pierre, KJP is going to get saved before Barack Obama, given FEMA's new standards on who gets aid during disaster situations.
And so I think it's a government ploy again, because what it is like, oh, there's a tornado, there's a hurricane, and half the state's wiped out, and we need help. People's going to be like, I'm gay.
I've been married, but like I've been waiting to come out of the closet.
There'll be a line.
Disaster.
You get to the southern states and everybody's straight and be like, I'm gay, give me the money.
Yeah, that'll be the biggest rise in
gay
population.
But then our government, again, falling back to Epstein, they're gonna be like, prove it. Just saying.
Yeah, no, they're definitely going. I mean, they're going to be like, all right, well, we need access to your vehicle data to make sure that
point proven
you've never searched some gay topics while in your car.
I'm just saying, man, that theory, that basis, that's where we're at, man. It's 2024, and
I'll tell you how
we're
crazy.
living like, oh man, it's ridiculous.
I'll tell you how crazy 2024 has gotten. There's this, we'll call him a content creator. His name is Gucci Third Leg.
It's what?
Gucci Third Leg.
Is his third leg Gucci?
I think that's what he's implying.
Okay.
But I think it's actually called herpes. I'm kidding. All right. So Gucci Third Leg, a OnlyFans star, exposes the dangers of OnlyFans by potentially infecting hundreds of partners with herpes, allegedly. So the gist of this story is this man has come out and said that he's, in his own words, that he has slept with thousands of women. And one of his previous partners have come out and said that, hey, I test positive for herpes, and I know that he was the partner that I had, and I have video evidence of what appears to be herpes on his genitals, and proceeded to also post this evidence, and it would definitely appear that this man has herpes, and according to other people that have come out, they said that he did not disclose this disease.
Mm-hmm.
And now this is the most allegedly thing I think I've ever said. But in my opinion, this is a really good topic of the dangers of going to sites like OnlyFans. Because at least in the porno industry, you have to sign waivers where it's like, yeah, I'm herpes free. So that way, if you do have it,
Be
I can
past the
sue
part of
you.
that. How in the hell do you even know that? But
I
moving
mean,
on.
yeah, but that's the point. It's like, okay, well, you lied because you signed this piece of paper saying that you didn't.
So
I'm
what?
suing you.
Care less.
Just the point of it is that there's protections put in place for top level.
Well, let me break this in another stupid little Joe the Show mentality. Las Vegas prostitution's legal. In Walmart, if you don't like what you got, you can get a return. So can you ask for a return?
No, there
You see
is
what
no
you see what I'm
refunds
saying? Like,
and sex
you're
work.
playing with this crap like it's a, like, I mean, it is a business, and actually what people it's actually illegal prostitution is what it is. It's like a gray area. So my thing is, like, so you're whoring around, sleeping around, making porn videos. You call it porn. It's OnlyFans, not porn, but it's porn.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
then you get an STD, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. Really? Like, I'm not like a loss for words. I've got plenty to say, but I'm like, are you just like, what did you expect?
And that's kind of my thing is like, when a man tells you I've had thousands of partners, that should be a red flag to any woman that, oh, I probably shouldn't do this. I'll take the B list actor versus this guy, and
Yeah, if anything,
to me,
write the guy a thank you note for not getting anything else.
And I don't know, it's bananas because like I could never imagine, and look, my wife accidentally joined a dark group chat on Facebook or like a group, whatever. It was called Breast Milk After Dark or After Hours, something insane.
Oh, gosh.
And not kidding you, it's dudes asking for insane videos of women to basically lactate on camera. Point of it being is like, the moment independents get out and start doing their own filming, the Wild West takes place. And there's no better example of like, this is why you go to official places like Pornhub, Brazzers. I mean, those are the only two that come to my mind.
I don't even know what
I
the
mean?
discussion is here other than talk trash, because it's like, oh,
Yeah, let's
this
talk
guy
about
slept with
trash.
1,000 people, and then like, again, I'm repeating myself. It's like, oh, you're surprised you got something, and like, I don't even know why I would care. Like, and the thing of it is what blows my mind is in it is even 2024. It blows my mind. You can even how do you take somebody to court for that?
I mean, with video evidence.
I guess if he's well endowed, you can't take him to.
Yeah,
I mean,
here it is. Look at his shaft. There's clear signs of herpes during the production of this video, and before that, he signed a statement saying that.
Okay, so if you're saying to take a look at his penis, and let's say he's well endowed, does that mean you can't take him to small claims court?
No, it's definitely.
I'm just
you're not
saying.
taking a guy that well endowed to small claims court.
I'm just saying.
You got to take him to Pound Town.
The grand jury.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, that's how stupid this is. That's why I'm coming to, like,
all right.
ridiculous,
it
stupid
is
dad
stupid.
jokes. But that's, I can't,
right.
I mean, I'm like sitting here with all these things floating through my mind and not one good thing that I can think of to say
insane.
this.
It's insane because, like, and all I guess I'm really trying to get out of this is just to make the point of, that's why you shouldn't do those types of things. Look, I understand that there's people who make $1 million a year. They don't have any sex with anyone besides their spouse or whatever. But it's like, these are the dangers of the industry. And by you being a part of it, you are in some ways promoting it. Now, I would assume just like any industry, there's good actors and then there's a ton of bad actors. And so the point of it is like most people, whenever they grow up, they aren't thinking, oh, I want to grow up to be a porn star. They might want to grow up to be the president, but no one, unless you've been abused, comes out saying like, oh, I want to have sex for a living. That's my job. Like, that's something that's developed. That's something that typically is groomed based on what you see, the things you hear, and the people you surround yourself with. Really what this gets at is how deprived our culture is, and like how we really need to start looking at being better dads to our daughters.
Well, yeah, I know, I agree. Like, yeah, I know, I'm glad you went through with that. My thought at first initially when you said that is like that's where we're at with like in society, how just absurd things are. Is you can sue anybody for everything. Like, and the thing of it is, and I'm not trying to jump back into the guy that killed this guy for raping his daughter, and the P Diddy thing and blah 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 whatever. But those are serious things.
Yeah.
And our courts are flooded on a court docket. We can't even handle serious things because we're flooded with nonsense like this. Oh, I spilled coffee on my lap at McDonald's, so I assume. Like, well, I should not have to put a sign or a thing on the cup that says hot. Are you so stupid that you didn't know it was hot? Like if I hand you a cup of ice water and you drink, like, oh my gosh, it's cold. Like, you ordered ice water, you dummy. Like, did you expect something different?
Well, there's a big difference though between hot and burning hot.
Well, hey, it's hot.
Come on.
And thing of it is, you spill it on your crotch, or you wreck your car because your kid scalded himself by I know now the flip side. I mean, there is stupid things. Like, I think I've said this before, like 20 episodes ago. Like, yeah, your kid got a chicken nugget and it burned him. That I would sue McDonald's for, because I would be shocked that they served you a hot chicken nugget.
Yeah, I mean, it is an anomaly for sure.
No, I'm just saying that's where we're at. Our courts are flooded by stupid stuff like this.
One last thing I wanted to get into, because I feel like courts would be flooded for probably the end of time if we really looked into this. But how about, should the military ban soldiers from being able to use their mobile phones or other recording devices while they're in a combat zone?
Yes.
And the reason why I bring that up is, we all know what's going on between Israel and Palestine, and Gaza. And there's like this little documentary that kind of came out where they're showcasing footage from different aspects of the IDF, where they were bombing buildings, blowing them up, destroying people's property, humiliating detainees, etc., all on their mobile phones, and then posting it on social media sites like Facebook, etc., Instagram. So now here we are. There's clear evidence that these people may be committing war crimes, because I don't think war allows you to go into unoccupied buildings and just blow them up.
Right.
I'm assuming. So with that being said, it would make a lot of sense for the military to cover that up and say, hey, we need to get rid of it. Like, you can't do that, guys. You're incriminating yourself.
Yeah. Well, my thought was not the pictures and everything else. My thought is, they're trackable, they're traceable, and I do not think that you put 100 people out there with cell phones that somebody's not innocently giving out information of a next move, where they're at, things like that. So from a strategic standpoint, I don't think that it's, I'm not going to go far to say, because I think it would be a little bit far-fetched, but it is a possibility. Like, I'm not trying to make the direct comparison, but cell phones, things like gas and certain things and blah, blah, whatever. So it's not such an impossibility that those cell phones could interfere with things. I think that technology's kind of weeded a lot of those things out. But
so I shouldn't turn off my phone.
From a strategic standpoint, I don't think it should be there because of intel reasons. That would be my concern. And plus, you're fighting in a war. Like, what are you going? Oh, pause. I need to call mommy. I need to call little Susie back. I'm like, when do you have time for that crap? So, like, there's a lot of things that I'm like, no. But on the same hand,
every video I saw had nothing to do with calling home to mom, and everything to do with
they're recording. That's the thing with cell phones. Yeah,
I mean, taking revenge, et cetera, type.
Yeah, I mean, when I was over there,
taking money.
Yeah, when I was in combat, it was obviously a little more dated than today. In 2003, and we didn't have, they had no kids. I mean, you didn't have like cameras and all that crap.
Right.
And so it was pretty much the old twist and shoot, and it had a little bit of digital stuff. And there's a lot of stuff that came out of there, and I think that there's probably footage that came. Probably, I'm going to say probably. I like that word better. That came out of there that shouldn't have, and so that was 20 years ago. I can only imagine now.
I wanted to bring that up because as a American citizen, I have to admit, I've seen these, in my opinion, atrocious clips of what Israel's done to Palestine. Whether it's justified or not, that's up for debate. Uh, but I can't think of too many clips that I've seen from Americans doing that kind of thing in Afghanistan, etc.
Oh,
And I'm not
happens.
I'm not naive to think that it didn't happen, but it's like that, in my opinion, tells you how good America is at keeping that under wraps.
There's a whole freaking debate on, combat situations and scenarios and stuff. Like I try to put this. I'm outside of 20 years. I think we're good. So I know for a fact that whenever I was in 2003, there was a group of people, a big group of people, some investigated, some weren't, that got in trouble for the way they interrogated people. And they got, charged accordingly, because it was against the Geneva Convention, the way their protocols, basically. However, it saved lives. But the United States, as far as I'm concerned, the only one that follows the Geneva Convention. However, I do know of people, in my opinion, that didn't follow that, did the same thing, and didn't get in trouble. And how they didn't get in trouble is because there wasn't any evidence of it. And so everybody that got, I say, indicted or charged with this stuff, all of them didn't get in trouble because there wasn't any evidence of it. So all I'm saying is, with that being said, is like, you're kind of self-incriminating when you're doing these things. Are you doing it because, and it's a hard thing that most people don't understand unless you've been there, that are you doing it as sick-minded person, like, look at this, I got my revenge? Are you doing it because you're just like, you think it's fun? Or you doing it just like, hey, this is what I was doing at the time, as more of a documentary to yourself? There's a lot of reasonings why. And the reason I say that is because in that setting, what happens when a person goes, and I think any veteran would testify to this, for me, when you get in that situation, you're fighting a good cause. You're fighting Saddam's regime at the time. But after you're there, by default, you form a hatred towards everybody of that race. Sorry. Because those people are killing your brothers, your sisters in arms. They're killing your buddies that you've served with. And so you form this. And the thing of it is what you used to value, some sort of rules to conduct yourself by in combat, you start to diminish and downplay those rules for the sake of staying alive. And you form this hatred towards them where you just don't care anymore.
You're desensitized.
And so I think that to some level, some of that comes into play, because when a person gets to that point, you're not in a normal state of mind. And what became something you would do 2 months prior to that is, man, that is so bad. That's immoral. That's unethical. That you think it's a freaking game because your mind is trained like that. Now, that's a far-fetched, and people don't, I say it's not a far-fetched, but that's what people think. Why do you think when they come back home, they still have problems? That switch can't be turned off. And so it's proven by the aftermath that these guys are coming home. They still have hatred towards, a race. Now, we don't want to call it that, because, and it's the thing, in the name of goodness or the government, you defended your country. It's not racism all of a sudden. You call it what it is. It's racism, because you can't shut that switch off. I'm sorry, people, and you can call me racist for it. If I walk into an airport and there's a guy with a freaking turban on, he might be the nicest guy in the world, but I'm telling you, our government made us think a certain way.
For 20
call
years.
it racist, and I'm certain by definition, and I would even be the first to testify it is. And it's something that we have to deprogram ourselves every day. That person's not a threat. That person's not a threat.
Yeah, no, I guess for me, I would kind of wrap it up with nothing simple. Like, there could be simple reasons, like TD Bank. I mean, you bribe employees, and yeah, they'll let you break the law. Uh, kind of the same thing. Like if you do something wrong to my family, you'll pay the price. And same thing here in the sense of like, yeah, if you tell someone that this is okay and they do that for 6 months straight, and then they have to come back to regular society and pretend like people of that skin color or nationality, whatever, were not a threat to you for 6 straight months and trying to take your life just as much as you were trying to take theirs.
Yeah.
That's where the nuance comes into play. And that's like where the deeper things like, all right, what C-level executives knew about this drug cartel, money laundering, who was involved that they would try to suppress that the man shot was the chief of police. So like it immediately gets a lot deeper than what's on the surface.
Sure.
And that's the beauty of thinking critically and asking questions. I'm not even saying great questions, just questions in general. Like,
With common sense.
It really is. And I don't have very much of it, but even a guy like me can see through a lot of the propaganda that were thrown. And by the way, the government also allowed that to happen to Americans as well. Thanks, Obama. National Defense Authorization Act, if I remember right. But anyway, the point of it being is like, pay attention. They can say it's in the name of saving lives, but is it? Because in a lot of other ways, they show just how much they don't care about human lives. So pay attention, be careful, but also don't be scared to communicate to one another about how you feel or what you think, because that's important in today's world.
Yeah, there you go.
So with that being said, I know someone has to have a comment about should Barack Obama or Karine Jean-Pierre be saved first in a flood when we're talking about black people and black gay people.
Well, who knows?
I don't know. I feel like there should be at least one comment dedicated to that.
I have comments, but moving on.
Okay. All right. But either way, thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure drop a comment, like, subscribe. You know what to do. But other than that, thank you. Have a great night.